In this video we're going to look at simplifying a problem involving exponents. Here's the problem we're going to do right here. The quantity x squared over y to the negative fourth all to the 1/2 power. So before we do that, let's review the laws of exponents, because to do any of these kind of problems you really have to have your laws of exponents memorized. So I've started us off over here with a little list, and I thought we'd go through these. See if you can think of them before I write them up there. If you have x to the a times x to the b, how would you simplify that? You keep the base the same, and you want to add the exponents. So it's going to be x to the a plus b. So in this scenario, you're going to add the exponents. Alright, next scenario, x to the a to the b. So x is just some generic base here, and a and b are exponents, a power to a power. How do you simplify that? You multiply these powers. So it's x to the a times b. Next one, negative exponents. Now this gets people all the time. Negative exponents do not mean negative numbers. Negative exponent basically means reciprocal. So if I have x to the negative a, it's telling me I have to take the reciprocal of x to the a. So 1 over x to the a. Oh, that a doesn't look real good. Let's make that look better. And this problem does have a negative exponent in it, so we are going to be able to talk about that a little bit more. And the next one I thought we might need for this problem is if you have a fraction to a power, you have to take the numerator to that power and the denominator to that power. Alright, so let's keep this in mind and go over here and work on our problem. So the first thing you want to do is look at and see what are my options for how I can start. Which one of these rules does it look like I could use? Well, certainly this last rule down here with the fractions we look like we could use, which says if I have a fraction to a power, I have to take the numerator to that power and the denominator to that power. So I have to take x squared to the 1/2 and y to the negative fourth to the 1/2. Another thing I'm looking at, if I do take x squared to the 1/2, which rule would I use to do that? That would be this second rule right here, because I'm taking a power to a power, so I'm going to multiply those exponents. Same thing with the y to the negative fourth to the 1/2, so I'd take negative 4 times 1/2. Some of you may have looked at it and saw the y to the negative 4 right off the bat and wanted to do something with that, which you can, which would be this rule right here. X to the negative a equals 1 over x to the a. This one looks a little bit different, doesn't it? Because the negative exponent is already in the denominator. If you think about what I said earlier about reciprocal, you can still apply this rule. If I want to take the reciprocal of 1 over y to the negative 4, it just becomes y to the 4. So it moves to the top if it's already in the bottom. I could rewrite another little rule. Let's put it in green. If I had 1 over x is what I meant to write. Let's erase that. If I had 1 over x to the negative a, in other words, if the negative exponent was already in the denominator, I'd have to do the reciprocal of that, which would give me x to the a. It's the reciprocal of 1 over x to the a. So that brings it up to the top. So basically, if you have a negative exponent in the denominator, you want to move the base and the exponent to the numerator, and then it becomes a positive exponent. If the negative exponent is already in the numerator, so to speak, I know this isn't a fraction here, but if I had it over 1, it basically is representing a numerator, then I would bring it to the denominator and make it positive. So we could start actually, a couple different ways on this problem. But let's go ahead and do the fraction rule. Let's do this bottom rule right here. So we're going to take x squared to the 1/2 power. So to do that, we multiply 2 times 1/2. I'll go ahead and write this out just for the sake of showing lots of work. And then in the denominator, we take y to the negative 4 times 1/2. So each of these to the 1/2 power. So let's go ahead and do that. X and to the 2 times 1/2 is 1. X to the first power, I don't have to write that 1, so I'm just going to leave it as x. And then negative 4 times 1/2 is negative 2. Now, you always want to write things with positive exponents if you can, so I still need to change this y to the negative 2 into a positive exponent. So I'm going to bring that y squared up to the top, y to the negative 2 up to the top, and then it'll turn into a y squared. So that's going to give me x y squared over 1, which is just xy squared. I'm going to erase this and do it a different way, except I'm going to leave the answer at the bottom. And you can see that if you did it a different way, you would still come out with the same answer of xy squared. So let's leave that there. Let's say we went ahead and did what was in the parentheses first, simplified what was in the parentheses, kept that to a half, and took this y to the negative 4 and brought it up and changed it to y to the positive 4. We could do that first if we wanted. That would give us x squared y to the 4 over 1, which I don't have to write anymore. Now I could use a rule, another rule, which I didn't list. Let's go ahead and list that one as well. It's kind of like this fraction rule. If you have two things in parentheses taken to a power, you have to take both of those things to that power, multiplied. Two things multiplied together to a power. So that's what I have here. So it's kind of like distributing, but I don't really want to use that word. I have to take each thing in here to the 1/2 power, which means I have to multiply each of these exponents by a half. So let's see what that would look like. That would give me, and for you could probably do this in your head, but just for clarity, I'm going to go ahead and write it out. We'd be multiplying these. So that would give me x to the first and y squared, which is exactly what I got when I did it the other way. Big key here is memorizing the laws of exponents and knowing how to apply them. Let me go ahead and give you one more to practice. I'm not going to go through it, but I'm just going to write it down, and what I want you to do is pause the video and work through it after I get it written down here. Over z squared all to the 1/2 power. It's always good to practice math, just to see one and then try one on your own. So go ahead and pause the video and try this. Alright, hopefully you have your answer now. And actually I do have time to go through it real quick, so I'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take everything in here to the 1/2 power. I'm going to do it that way first. So I'm going to times all these exponents by a half. So that's going to give me x squared y to the negative 3 over 2 times 1/2 is just 1, so that gives me z. Now I got to take care of my negative exponent, which is right here, this y to the negative 3rd. I need to bring that down there, and then it'll change into y to the 3rd by this rule right here. So my final answer here would be x squared over y to the 3rd z. That's your answer. Now if you did it a different way and you brought the y to the 6th down first, y to the negative 6, brought it down as y to the 6th, and then times everything by a half, you'd still end up with the same answer. Hopefully that helps, and make sure you have those laws of exponents memorized.